Hey. Coach Wheeler here, and I wanted to talk to you today about the power of a positive mind and how positive words, positive emotions, positive thoughts, and positive actions can lead to a much more fulfilling life. And now that might sound quite simple, and you think, well, we know that, if I'm positive, I'm going to be good. If I'm negative, it's going to be bad. But there's also a lot of evidence and case studies and different surveys that have been done over time with psychologists and people groups and all these different things to prove that it can have a health benefit and a wealth benefit and an overall life benefit. So I really wanted to stress how positive or how good it is to have a positive mindset and to use positive words. There was a group of people that were past retirement, and they were coming out of that work phase into retirement and how they coped. And they wanted to look at, because they'd been through time, they'd seen, surveys and studies that were done on people that lived a quite fruitful, long retirement and had a very abundant, into their later years, had a very abundant, fruitful life and lived happily into their 80s and 90s and did so many more things than they did in their younger years when they had a family, they had a career, they had their teenage years and all those different kind of life stages. They wanted to look at that. So they kind of spoke to different groups of people, and they found that the people that lived longer and had more fruitful lives had a more positive outlook on life. And they used words like freedom, choice, space, maturity, family, adventure. They used words like that, which just resonated that kind of positivity throughout their whole being. And they found that the people that didn't live as long, that had more ailments and more illnesses, used words like fragile, frail, old, death, tired, exhausted. Those words that were more sort of negative, on the slightly downturn. And you might think that's a very small detail, and you think, well, how can simply using those different words have such a major effect? But it really does, and it was mapped through to the results of their lives. And they even did a survey at the other end of the scale. They did a group of kids. They gave them a really challenging task to do, and they split them into 4 groups. The first group was given stern instructions and almost like a forceful, really strict way of getting them to do this challenge. And they set them off to do it. The second group were given a fixed mindset. And in the fixed mindset, you affirm people's intelligence, their knowledge, and you confirm that they are intelligent and should be able to work this out, no problem. The third group are given the growth mindset. And in the growth mindset, you actually encourage them and say, well, listen, you always work things out. You're very creative. You'll figure this out. You have that mechanic capability and that understanding to be able to break it down, work it out, and do really well. So they sent them off with the growth mindset. Interestingly enough, the fourth group were just given a high five. And they found that the power of the high five had so many more benefits. And what it did, it was like, the high five was a celebration it wasn't a celebration of your work or your effort or you doing well in that task. It was just a celebration of you. That positive affirmation, that positive reaffirming high five that just didn't need to say anything. But the effects it had on people were exponentially better than the rest of the groups. The kids that did the high five did almost twice as well as any of the other groups. It's needless to say that the growth mindset and the fixed mindset were roughly about second and third and quite close, and they did way better than the kids that were just given the stern instructions. So it kind of shows you that so much more in a positive mindset, a positive being, and a positive outlook on life can actually reap the rewards, and they've been mapped back to our physicality and our physiology that make a difference in our life. And in our well-being and our health. And we might sort of say that seems crazy, but have you ever heard the saying when someone says, you can make yourself sick? Where you actually kind of think things that are so bad that you actually live in this negative fog and this negative moment. And it could be just an incident or something that happens where you just feel almost like, oh my God, this is going to go wrong, that's going to happen, and I feel this and I feel that. And then guess what? It happens. It's kind of crazy how the mind has that much power. And in everything I do, in all my coaching and my therapy and the psychology I use, There are the foundations and the mechanics of the psychology, but there's also one step further of your mindset and the power of a positive mind and the power your mind has. They say it's the most powerful thing we will ever come into contact with. And there's parts of our brains we don't use, and that still scientists and psychologists, psychiatrists, and all kinds of different people that study these things that still don't understand the full capacity of our minds. And there's still areas they're not sure about. But so many times when we live in a positive frame and a positive mindset, using positive words and positive actions, it has a mapped effect to our physiology and our well-being and our health. So I really think that's important. I wanted to share that with you guys today. So it might seem like quite a simple thing to talk about. And I'm not talking about angels and fairy dust and just having a smile every day and, zippity-doo-dah, zippity-ay, and you're just going to be wonderful, because obviously life is still going to throw those challenges. But when we face that with a positive mindset, the outcome and the differences are massive. They just are so massive. And I remember even in, just to one last thing, I remember there's been times in my life when I've just really dreaded things, and I remember a job situation that I had, and I was just kind of in this bad mindset. And I remember thinking, I was just like, I hated going to work. I didn't like the people I worked with. There was a couple of people that I clashed with. It wasn't really going in the direction I want, but I didn't have another job. I couldn't just leave. I was kind of felt trapped in this weird sort of moment in life. And then I remember I got another job offer. And another job offer came in, and it kind of released this pressure where I could leave if I wanted to. So all that changed was the situation hadn't changed. The people at work hadn't changed. The people that I clashed with didn't change. The fact that I had a different opportunity, which meant that my mindset was the only thing that changed. In those last few weeks at that job, before I handed in my notice, I went in with a different mindset. And just by changing my mindset, I went in more positive. It was actually pretty good. And I kind of felt a bit like, wow, maybe I started to second guess. I was like, well, maybe I shouldn't leave this job, It's actually not that bad. Thinking back to it now, it was just my mindset that changed. My mindset was more positive. So the affirmations it gave me and the release to my physiology that made me feel better because I was thinking differently was massive. So it proves it in everyday life. And that was just a normal little thing. It wasn't even something that I tried to apply it to. It was just something that happened. But through the kind of information that came back, it proved that my mindset change, which was the only thing that changed, helped me. And there was even another story. So I'm going on again. So one more thing. When is he going to stop? There was a story about a woman who was diagnosed with terminal cancer. And I think she was about 53, 54, something like that. And I might be wrong in the exact quotations of the story, but she stuck by the rules. She had a pension. She did a good job. She was a good mother, a good wife. She'd played by the book. She'd done everything as she was supposed to do. And when she got this diagnosis of terminal cancer, and they said, you've got 6 months to a year to live, she felt furious. She was so angry that she felt, why? I've done everything I should have done. I've lived a healthy, good, honest, decent life. Why should I be treated this way? And the indignation made her say, do you know what? I am going to do what I want for me. And I'm just going to live these last 6 months to a year just for me. So she forgot about all the restrictions, the restraints, being a good person, eating well, paying her pensions, doing her things, being a good citizen, all these things. She just went off and lived her life. And she went out and had fun, didn't care about this, about that, about the constraints of this and that, and worries and that. She let go of everything. And guess what? She lived for another 17 years. Another 17 years. Now, the only thing that changed, the diagnosis didn't change. The doctors said it's a medical miracle. The fact that you survived another 17 years. It's just, there's no explanation. It's those 1 in a million things that happen and blah-de-blah-de-blah. But one thing everyone did say was the only thing that changed was her mindset. She went from being in this rigid, formative, constrained life of doing everything she felt she should do to being this completely free bird that just did what she wanted to do. And she lived another 17 years. And that to me speaks volumes about the power of the mind. That if you think positively, you are positive, you say positive things, and you're just free in yourself, it can have so many more benefits for a better life. Just a more positive, beautiful life. So I wanted to share that with you. Sorry for the one more thing, but I wanted to share with you that story that just came into my mind. I hope that helps. Look forward to more tips, more advice from Coach Wheeler. Follow, subscribe, tell a friend, and send me any messages if you want to have a chat. I hope you guys have a wonderful day, and I'll see you on the other side. Peace.